Okay, in this video we'll continue looking at simplification of surds, and this time surds will be offered to you when they multiplied a couple of surds multiplied together, and that's what you need to do first. You need to multiply them first and then to simplify. Or obviously you can use different methods. You might want to keep splitting up bigger surd and to combine convenient parts that will make a whole number. So if we will be following the multiplication law for surds, so when we multiply square root of a times square root of b, the result is square root of a times b. Okay, so let's see what happens here. If we multiply square root of 2 times square root of 24, the result is square root of 48. Again, I'm not sure what how from this stage 4 square roots of 3 was achieved, but unless I will see clearly that square root of 8 was simplified and square root of 6 was split into 2 roots, and then I will see how square root of 3 was achieved. Alternatively, you could look at square root of 48 and to find a perfect square as a factor here. So 48 is 16 times 3, and 16 is the biggest perfect square that goes into 48, and so square root of 16 multiplied by square root of 3 gives you square root of 16 gives you 4 times root of 3, so that's the answer. Okay, square root of 3 times square root of 12 is square root of 3 times 12, which is square root of 36, and square root of 36 is 6. You not really need to do all of that. It's enough already to have like square root of 36, and you know that is 6, so that's enough. Square root of 3 times square root of 24 is square root of product of 3 and 24. Okay, and 3 times 24 makes 72. Again, 72 was split here into 8 and 9. 8 times 9, square root of 9 gives you 3. Okay, and a square root of 8 gives you 2 roots of 2, and then you multiply these numbers together and you get in 6 roots of 2. This is correct answer, and that is wrong answer. Okay, what happened here, I think a person was dividing 6 roots of 2 each of these numbers by 2. There's no reason for that, because what you have achieved here is already the answer. You have square root of 2. It's not square root of 2 is not dividing 2 by 2. Okay, and also it means 6 was multiplied by root of 2, so there's no reason why you should divide by 2 this 6. Okay, what could happen as well, that if you would start looking for, once you multiply these two numbers together, all right, so you've got 72, could you think of biggest, like the biggest possible perfect square as a factor of 72? So basically you need to think about two numbers, okay, that will be factors of 72. When you multiply them together you get 72, but one of them has to be a perfect square. For example, the biggest one I think of is 36, and 36 has to be multiplied by 2. Alright, square root of 36 now multiplied by square root of 2, square root of 36 gives you 6 times root of 2. That's the answer. Okay, right, now let's look at square root of 2 times square root of 10. Square root of 2 times square root of 10 is root of 2 times 10, which is 20, and then 20 was split into 4 times 5. Square root of 4 times root of 5 is 2 square roots of 5. That's everything is perfect here, no questions asked. Let's look at E, square root of 3 times root of 15, which is now root of 3 times 15, which is now root of 45, and 45 has 9 as a factor, which is 9 is perfect square, so square root of 9 goes as 3 and multiplied by square root of 5. That's the perfect answer. Okay, and now finally we have here square root of 40 times root of 2. This is square root of 40 times 2, which is square root of 80. Okay, 80 has to be more simplified, and I'd like to see how this was done, and I would like to see how basically this answer was achieved. So therefore, please show me that you can split 80 into product of two factors where one of them is a perfect square and the biggest possible you can think of. There's not big, like the perfect squares that you will be using are not really big. One is 1. Okay, the first one is 1. The second one is 4 because it is 2 squared, 4. The next one is 3 squared, which is 9. The next one is 4 squared, which is 16. And the next one is 5 squared, which is 25, and then 36, and so on. Okay, if you think about 80, I think you should see it is 16 times 5. Check. 10 times 5, 50, 6 times 5, 30, so 50 and 30 is 80, right? So now we're splitting square root of 16 times 5 into root of 16 times root of 5, and root of 16 is 4, and that is 4 roots of 5. Done and dusted. Okay, we are not there yet. We have a few questions to finish. So square root of 3 times root of 60 is square root of 180. And here I would like to see again how this was done, because, right, I don't mind square root of 180 to be written as product of square root of 18 and square root of 10, but I would like to see how it was done. Okay, so for example, if you see that 180 is 18 times 10, none of these numbers is a perfect square yet, but I know that 10 is 2 times 5, right? And so, and I know that 18 times 2 is 36 times 5, and so now I know that square root of 80 can be written as square root of 36 times 5, and square root of 36 times 5 is root of 6. Oh, sorry. It's basically a root of 36 times root of 5, and root of 36 is 6 times root of 5, and that's end of story. That's correct answer, but I hope you didn't use calculator here, because you're actually supposed to do this type of questions on non-calculator paper, so you do need to learn it properly without any cheating on calculators, okay? And in this particular case it would be cheating, because it doesn't help you you know, using calculator in these questions to understand the concept and the material. So if you used your calculators, you have to do it again, this exercise, otherwise you just simply wasted your time and you didn't get anything out of this. Okay, this question I would like to do a bit differently, because when you multiply 7 by 35 and you get in this big number, you have to work with this number. You have to imagine what this number has to be, although it's already done for us. 245 divided by 5, and the remainder is 49, which is easy to split into two factors, and where square root of 49 is 7. Alternatively, there is another way how to solve it. I'll show you. Square root of 7 times square root of 35. Imagine you don't want to really to go this far to multiply these two numbers and then to factorize them somehow. What you could do, if you notice that square root of 35 is square root of 7 times square root of 5, which is true, isn't it? That is square root of 35. Okay, now why I'm doing this? Because I already have seen the first square root of 7, right? So I want to make a pair for this square root of 7. Okay, so square root of 7 times square root of 7 is actually 7 times root of 5. Why it is 7? Square root of 7 times square root of 7 is actually square root of 7 squared. And what happens here, you square root in 7 and then you square in, so you literally reversed all your operations that you applied to 7. So that means it is 7. Or alternatively, you think about this way. Square root of 7 times root of 7 is root of 49, and root of 49 is 7. So done. Okay, that's correct answer again. square root of 50 times root of 10 is root of 500, and 500 was written as 100 times 5, and root of 100 gives you 10, and the root of 5 multiplied by 10. Okay, done. Square root of 8 times root of 24 is this. You multiplied 8 by 24 and you've got 192, which is a big number. Okay, and now you see square root of 192 as 96 times 2, but square root of 96 is actually, you see, it's, you had this and now you've got answer here. You most likely use calculator, which you shouldn't. You shouldn't, because if you see such question in your exam and you don't have calculator, what are you going to do? Okay, you're going actually there is just 1 mark out of 3 here, so which is not really good performance. All right, so we need to see what we can do better. Square root of 8 times square root of 24 multiplied together. Okay, what we can think about is this: 8 times, and 24 can be written as 8 times 3. Okay, now 8 times 8 is 64, so actually square root of 8 times square root of 24 is square root of 64 times root of 3, and square root of 64 is 8, and multiplied by square root of 3. That is the end of this exercise. Okay, and video. Thank you for